I see some rack stars in our audience as well. Well, for those of y'all who have joined us thus far, while we're waiting a couple more minutes, how many of you are joining us because you saw Sophia and I from the Instagram Live? Can you give us a wave? Ah. It's good to know. It's nice to know that that our efforts are paying off and you all want to have more information about this opportunity. Thank you for that.
Dana, if Jordan doesn't join us, are you going to be okay to interpret for the full hour? Okay.
I was just typing in the chat. I said, let's just go ahead and get started. Yeah, because I can solo, that's fine. So.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Sophia, if you're ready. Thank you. Okay. We're going to go ahead and get started. Let me share my screen. Okay. And hopefully you can all see that. Okay. Go ahead, Mario, I see you.
I was going to say, do you want me to start?
Yeah.
I was going to let everybody know or welcome everybody back who's interested in knowing about this great opportunity, which is for the Midland Library exterior canopy. We're really looking forward to share more in-depth information and get into some more of the nit and gritty that we weren't able to do during the Instagram Live. Just a couple housekeeping things. I will be facilitating the process, but ultimately it's going to be a great kind of session between Sophie and Sophia, our guests. But I will go ahead and share with everybody. If you have questions during the Zoom call, please use your Q&A button because that's what I will be monitoring. If you put a question in the chat, there's a chance that it will get lost. At least through the Q&A, I will be able to track it. And if by chance we don't get to it in time, what we would be able to do is answer those questions in the description of when we post this video on YouTube.
Yeah, and you have the ability in the Q&A to also click like on a question and also comment. So if somebody has a question and you have that question too, if you it's called upvoting. If you upvote the question, then we know which questions are most kind of desirable to answer. You also should be able to navigate towards the bottom of your screen to, I think, where the 3 dots are, and click onto the live transcript and captioning. I was going to enable it on my screen so that everybody could see that. Would that be helpful? Okay. There we go. And then just a reminder to Mario, Sophia, and myself to speak slowly for Dana, as they are solo today.
That's all right. We can definitely do that. Well, first off, let me introduce myself and then my colleague as well. I'm Mario Mesquita again. I am the manager of advocacy and engagement here at the Regional Arts and Cultural Council. So I'm really excited to present this opportunity with my colleague and also our partner here that will ultimately be able to give you more information about it. So I'll pass it on to Sophie.
Yeah, hi, thank you, Mario. My name's Sophie, and I'm one of the new public art project managers for RAC. So I'm overseeing the public art components at the Midland Library renovations. And I'm going to pass it on to Sophia to introduce herself as well.
Thanks. Hey, everyone. I'm Sophia Schaufan Ostrens, and I am an architect that's been working on the Midland Library with Collocate Design. Collocate has also been doing all of the community engagement and organizing around this library, as well as the Holgate Library. So my role in this project would be to work with you on integrating any art in the design itself, but also in helping you connect with anything we've heard in the past, and also facilitate any connections that y'all need to the communities we've been connected to.
And then I was just going to introduce Dana. Dana's our Asl interpreter today. And we might have somebody else joining us, but we're not sure yet. So it's just the four of us for now. Maria, I'm going to go back to the agenda slide so that we can just review that for everybody. So we've done introductions. We're going to go over some accessibility and assistance that we have available through RAC. We're going to talk about RAC for those who don't know, talk a little bit about public art for those who don't know, and then we'll get into the meat of the project itself and explain a little bit more about the Library Capital Bond project and Midland Library, and then go into a little bit more detail about the specific art opportunity and the goals, cover eligibility, selection process and timeline. We'll talk a little bit about the RAC opportunity portal and how to apply, and then we'll open up for Q&A.
So we have, what is great about this opportunity is being partners with the library, that we are able to bring to everyone more opportunities for accessibility and any assistance that may be needed as well. Sophie is going to be on alert and seeing if anyone might have questions about application technical assistance, because we know for new people, sometimes it can be a little confusing, but we hope once you get a hang of it, it'll be really easy to apply. We also do have materials translated into other languages upon request. Feel free to ask us any questions when need be, and we'd be happy to get that material and applications to you as well. Same with large print materials and alternate formats. And then we do have available interpretation services, and definitely have a process for accommodations for people living with disabilities. And like today, we have the ability for captioning as well. So a little bit about all about RAC. RAC is a fantastic organization that technically has almost 50 years of experience here, supporting and working with the city of Portland and supporting all of its our public art initiatives as well. Around 25 years ago is when we became RAC, what it is today, the Regional Arts and Culture Council, in which we specialize in doing a lot of advocacy work for artists, arts organizations, having lots of opportunities via grants, working like today on many public art projects, also making sure that we support and advocate for arts education for our youth, but also making sure that art is accessible to all, along with providing various sorts of resources as well. Our mission is to enrich our communities through arts and culture. And I feel this project is a great example of what that really looks like, making sure that all communities are touched, considered, and have an opportunity to raise their voices through arts and culture. RAC continues to advocate for equity and inclusion and access. We're constantly building a community in which everyone can participate in culture, creativity, and the arts. If you do want to have more information all about RAC, you can visit us right there on a link, www.racc.org, but also take a look at all the interesting opportunities, but also fun projects that we're able to share via Instagram at Regional Arts.
Thank you, Mario. So I was going to talk a little bit more about the public art program itself and just kind of set the scene for everything the department does. So we have a traditional Percent for Art program, and what that looks like is that usually a percent of a development budget is put towards public art so that we can create projects like this when new buildings and renovations are happening throughout the city. We also plan temporary public art projects. So those are kind of time-based projects that could be a matter of days or weeks, but also months. We have two collections. So there's the Visual Chronicle collection, which is mainly 2D paper-based work. And then the Portable Works collection is a mix of 2D and 3D artworks. We have other more specific projects, Support Beam, the Black Portland Matters Art and Placemaking Initiative, which is a partnership with Peabot. We do a lot of other collaborations with community organizations and grassroots orgs, our murals program. And then one of the other things that we do is conservation and maintenance. So we take care of all of the public artwork in the city, make sure that they are clean and full and that they don't have any damage. And yeah, making sure that it's all taken care of. So we're going to move on and talk a little bit more specifically about this project. And Sophia, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more about the Capital Bond project and kind of explain the overview of that.
Sure can. So the Midland Library is part of a larger bond-funded set of projects for libraries across Multnomah County. This was approved by voters in 2020, and it was seen as a really necessary measure because the library system here is vastly undersized for the population. All of our libraries in our entire system actually fit inside the Seattle Public Central Library, if you've ever been to that building. And part of that is an equity issue too. Most of the libraries here tend to be in the western part of town, but a lot of the growth in our population has been in East County. And so what you are seeing is that the library is prioritizing East County as well as North Portland as where the first projects are going. And that's why the Midland project is one of the first that's being built. So right now it's the Albina, Colgate, Midland, and North Portland libraries that are in design. Along with this, there's also going to be a flagship library in East County, which is actually just starting its design process. And then the technology in the library is also being upgraded in terms of internet and also the ability to move collections around to better get materials to people.
Yeah.
So the Midland Libraries, the project we're here to talk about today, it is Southeast 122nd and Southeast Morrison in the Mill Park neighborhood. And we're just kind of getting into construction documents, which means that construction will start probably in the winter. And then the building will open in 2024 in the spring. And if you've been to this library, there's an existing 24,000 square foot building there that is going to stay and be renovated. We're doing a gut renovation that's going to upgrade all of the systems inside the building and also freshen and redo the layout to better accommodate programs. Particularly in this whole bond effort, the library is looking to make more space for people. So the buildings aren't just storage spaces for books. And there is a separate facility that will be able to do more of the storage function. So this is going to become more of a community gathering space than it has been. And then in addition to that, there will be a 6,000 square foot addition to the south of the building, which will go towards the parking lot. And we're also creating some outdoor play spaces and plaza spaces for events and gathering and play. So on the addition, that's where we're creating a new entryway. We're actually creating a whole porch sequence, trying to draw the experience of the library outside of the building and also create a sense of welcome. And that's where the exterior art canopy is going to be.
So let's talk a little bit more about the specific art opportunity with the exterior canopy. It is the first of 3 public art opportunities at the Midland Library. So there will be 2 more calls to artists coming after this one. So keep an eye out for that. I want to make sure that it's clear that for the canopy RFQ, request for qualifications, we are specifically looking for a 2D digital design. So the artist or artist team that is selected will be expected to provide a high definition digital file for printing. To clarify, you can work in any 2D medium, but then we can either, if you have that skill set, or we can assist with digitizing the work so that it can be made into a digital file that can then be given to the fabricator to print and install the artwork. The material that will be used is called high pressure laminate, otherwise known as HPL, and it will be installed on the underside of the canopy. Mario told me to remember to tell you all that the canopy is not flat, and maybe Sophia can speak a little bit to that, but it actually goes up, so it isn't a flat surface. It will be visible from 122nd Avenue by car, but also by walking and riding and other things. So both people and traffic will be able to see it. The canopy is going to extend the width of the building on that south side, which is approximately 224 feet. And then once you combine all of that with the vertical and horizontal surfaces, we're looking at about 3,500 square feet that needs to be covered with this artwork. The artist or artist team that's selected will have the opportunity to work with Sophia and other members of the design team on selecting a complementary solid color for some adjacent panels. And again, just to reiterate that you do not need to have experience digitizing your work. That's something that RAC can support with, and finding a third-party contractor who can do that scope of work. The project budget is $40,000, and there is a $15,000 separate allocation for the digitization of the work that will be paid directly to the artist or the vendor that can complete that work. This is an image of a different project that has been used in some inspiration materials for this project. It's at the Red River College Innovation Center. and the artist is Jackie Travis. And this was just to give you all an example of kind of what we're thinking the canopy at Midland will be looking like from the underside.
Yeah, and just for context, that project is done with the exact same material that we're planning on using. So it is made to be UV resistant, durable for exterior, and it prints really beautifully and crisp with vibrant colors.
Yeah, thank you. So we wanted to explain some of the artwork goals, and Sophia, let's tag team this because you've done a lot of this work already through your community engagement efforts. But there is a deep desire for this project to be community centered and to really embed the community and the communities, plural, that use the Midland Library, to really embed them in this process and in the final design.
Yeah, so one of the questions we asked as we were doing our engagement was, how do you want to be welcomed to the library? And many people talked about wanting to see themselves or their communities reflected in the arrival experience. And so this is an opportunity to do that. We want to create a sense of invitation and welcome and have a design that reflects the communities here. And a lot of people specifically said, let's find an artist. We want to see art. We want to see colors that feel warm. And so that's a huge opportunity for all of you.
Yeah, and I think one thing I would add is at the end of this list here where it says that the design needs to translate to scale. As I mentioned, people will be able to view the artwork from a distance and also up close. So that's something to consider. You know, we're not really looking for artwork that is super intricate that can't be translated to that kind of distance. Mario, you have your hand up.
I do, because this was actually a question that we had last time in our Instagram live. Quick information is, what kind of engagement has been done with the community thus far?
That's an excellent question. It's been months, if not over a year at this point, of engagement. And there are lots of ways it happened. So some of it was the more typical open houses, so open events that anyone from the public could attend. Our engagement, however, also wanted to more specifically reach communities that are highly impacted by library space that may not usually be part of the design process. So we had a group of community design advocates essentially co-locate on our projects. We hire organizers from various communities in the city to join our team. And we had 14 of these design advocates coming from communities of disability, Black, Indigenous, houseless communities, sort of the range of communities that we'd heard from Midland staff and those that we were engaging in really early on about who uses the library and who do we need to make sure we're including. So those advocates were actually provided the tools and training to go out to their communities with material about the design and important questions throughout the process, to have tea or have gatherings in whatever way, do street outreach. You know, they know the best ways to meet with their communities. And so they went out and had continuous meetings throughout the design process to help us stay connected. And they worked with our team on a weekly basis. We were meeting with them twice a week. So pretty integrated. And that was at the core of our engagement process. We also did tabling. We had some voting that happened recently too. Some of you may have seen that for certain decisions happening on the library. And I'm sure there's more, but that's what comes to mind right now.
Thank you. The other thing that I do see on the slide, but I'm going to echo it, is that further feedback and details on the community engagement so far is available to share with the selected artist or artists once this process goes through.
Yeah, I moved ahead. Oh, sorry, Maria, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm curious, but I'm sure there's others who might be curious as well. Can the selected artist or artists potentially also do their own engagement, and would they be able to have assistance with that?
Absolutely. Yeah, this might be a future slide, but I'm going to say it now. Community engagement is really important to this project team, and we believe that's for the building, but also for the art. I don't think I mentioned this earlier, but Collocate is actually a nonprofit that's focused on designing just spaces. And so the idea of shifting power within design and making sure that people using or impacted by a design are part of the design process is really core. So you'll see in the RFQ that we are looking for artists that do engage communities in your work, and we're really interested to see what your process is. We are around for support on that. We have several CDAs too that have been interested in staying connected to the art process. So I'm happy to talk through strategy, facilitate at workshops. The process needs to be led by the artists, but we are here to also get the word out through our connections, and the library has quite a few as well. So if there are specific types of support you're looking for, I'd love to hear that, so I'm aware of what people might need. But short answer is yes.
I skipped ahead to this slide, Sophia, because it felt like the right time as you were talking about all the community engagement work Collocate's been doing. But I wanted us to talk a little about what participatory design looks like in this project. And you've covered a lot of this already, you know, explaining how the library patrons and communities have been involved in certain decision-making so far. But would you mind maybe talking a little bit about the design concept and the interior design selection as well?
Yeah, some context around other conversations that have been happening on the project and design decisions. So our overall design concept for the whole Midland project is weaving. And that is the idea of being able to weave together the diversity of stories and lived experiences that are part of the Midland community into a shared communal space. And so I think there's an image later, but this is reflected in the way we're gathering people. It's reflected in ways that we're embedding storytelling and opportunities for art pretty much throughout the building. And one location that might be significant in relationship to the canopy is the exterior cladding of the project. So that's the exterior wall surface of the addition is also going to have a texture on it that the design team is going to be holding workshops around storytelling and patterns that are important to communities. And we'll be designing a texture with that workshop with the public that comes to those. And so I anticipate that will happen before we have an artist on board for the canopy. So we will be sharing anything that we hear and learn from that workshop with you all. Other parts of weaving, we wanted to be really intentional about saying, like, we're not just weaving relationships between people. We also are very conscious that as humans, we're not separate from nature. And so the weaving of humans and nature and the presence of nature and the experience of it is a big part of the site, both inside and out. So one of the voting opportunities that happened recently, mentioned we did voting, was for the interior concept of the building and the colors that are used on the inside. And there were 3 different schemes that went out, and one of them was water. And the water scheme is the one that was voted by the public. And so on the interior of the building, you will actually see like the form of the big river, which is the Columbia, sort of in the ceiling of the space where the clerestory is currently. And there'll be some calm and cool color tones sort of throughout the interior of the space. Let's see.
Yeah, I was going to interrupt just briefly, Sophie, if you could move to the next slide,
Sure.
because that was showing some of the themes that Sophia was talking about, as well as the concept of weaving together a diverse range of stories too.
Yeah. So this has, I talked about the gathering, storytelling, the art, nature, interaction is a good one to note. This porch area isn't just a canopy, it's going to be over an area that has seating and tables, and we've made it so it has power and data. And there's actually going to be carts that the library is planning to be able to roll activities outside or highlight books or have a zine library or other ways of actually bringing the library outdoors and letting people be interacting with the building under the canopy. So,
oh, sorry, Sophia. I want to go back for just a second because I want to talk a little bit about some of the themes that have come up in the community sessions around some of the things that people are hoping that the artwork will include. And again, I think, Sophia, you can probably speak to this more than I can, but you can see here in this list that folks are hoping to include some bold and vibrant colors, maybe geometric shapes or pattern-like design, symbols, textiles, color palettes from different cultures, maybe even some tree canopies from different places that are kind of all weaving together, or fabric and quilt-like designs. None of this is supposed to be a clear directive for the artwork. These are just suggestions and ideas that have come out of the community engagement sessions, and more of those community engagement sessions, which we'll talk about a little bit later, I think will bring up some more ideas. And I also just want to ground us in we're seeking an artist or an artist team that really welcomes and reflects this kind of engagement, and is also reflecting the diverse communities that already are being served by Midland Library. So you'll probably hear us say it a few more times in the next half an hour or so, but community engagement is really key to this entire process. And I just wanted us to just come back to that. Sophia, is there anything else you want to add on this part?
I think what you said is right. I would say vibrant colors is probably, out of all of them, the one that is a constant. So you'll probably want to think about color. The other ones came up more in like a brainstorming context. So like Sophie said there, none of those are things you have to do. They're just ideas people have thrown out.
Yeah. Okay. This is, we've already talked a lot about community engagement, but I wanted us to talk a little bit about who we're talking about when we keep referring to the communities that Midland Library serves. So there is a long list here, but I'm going to read it out loud just so that everybody knows. Communities served by Midland Library include Black and African American, Indigenous people, Somali and other Eastern African immigrants, Chinese, both Cantonese and Mandarin speaking, Vietnamese, Slavic and Eastern European, Malay, Bhutanese, Iraqi, Tongan, Latinx, and not just Spanish language speakers, youth and elders, the LGBTQIA2S+ community, people living with disability and neurodivergence, and also houseless. So there's a long list of people that this library serves, and what we really want to do in the design of this artwork, like Sophia is saying, is find ways of weaving all of those stories together. Again, reiterating that we are really looking for an artist that reflects some of these communities and that also can embed the process, the community engagement process within their work. And the reason why that's so important is because we will be asking the selected artist or artist team to host or facilitate 2 community engagement sessions during their design phase. So there'll be time to, again, work with Sophia and her team and seek some additional community input and feedback, hopefully that will inform the final design. Is there anything else you want to add to that, Sophia? No?
That was great.
Okay. And these are just a couple of images, they're renderings that the co-locate team have done of the new canopy area outside. As you can see right now, it is a solid color, but the underside of the canopy is where your work will be. Sophia, do you want to add anything to that?
I think the only thing might be if you want to like trace the outline, since it's not just the underside, it actually folds down in a few spots.
Mm-hmm. Similar to the image on the first slide.
Sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we did want to find an opportunity for the art to come down to human levels, and you're seeing that towards the street side of the library where it folds down that wall.
Right. Mario, your hand's up.
Yeah, I had wanted to just quickly back to the community engagement question, because you had pointed out that consideration of the community input and feedback is important to inform the final design.
Yeah.
And with that, there should be 2 community engagement sessions that would allow for more of a collective visioning and public review of the design that the artist or group of artists have presented already. Is that correct?
No, let me clarify. So we're asking the selected artist or artist team to conduct a minimum of 2 community engagement sessions. And what happens during that time is really, we want, as Sophia said, we want the artist to lead. So those community engagement sessions could look like lots of different things. It could look like being participatory, like bringing in materials to have the community make some designs of things, or collages. It could be more trying to expand upon the work that Co-Locate has already done in terms of getting a better sense of what they want to see. So it could be, you know, a discussion. But I don't really want to, again, just prescribe what that should be, because that is really what we're looking for from the artist. We're hoping that we're going to be able to find an artist who has a community engagement or social practice, and so that they will come with ideas of how to engage the community and how to embed the community and their desires for the artwork into their design. So
okay, so let me
yeah.
clarify then too. I think that is clear, and actually, which is great. I'm glad you said that, because it's actually touching base on 2 questions that we had already in the Q&A section. But with that said, so these sessions are to inform or inspire the artist's design, correct? It is not for the artist to present their design that they've already come up with to the community yet.
Not yet. Not yet.
Okay.
No.
Yet.
Exactly. There should be, that's why there's a minimum, excuse me, of 2. So that one could be gathering information and input, and then the artist goes away, works on a design, and comes back and does a review. There could be 2 sessions that are for input, and then they come back for a third that's for review. But there will be a public review at the end, but we're open to what that process looks like.
Okay.
Is that clear?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think Sophia had already mentioned it earlier, and then you underlined it as well, Sophie, that the engagement sessions will be supported, but we want the artist to lead those sessions.
Yes.
Okay. And then also one more question, but this might be already later in the slides, and I'm also watching the time as well.
Yeah.
But would the exact dimensions or sections of the space be available or broken down for the artist to use, when they're designing?
Yeah, there is description in the RFQ already about the sizing, and further renderings and such would be provided to the selected artist so that they can use that to create their design.
Okay.
All right. And what I'm hearing you say, Mario, is that I need to speed up. So I'll try. Okay, so let's talk about who's eligible for this opportunity. Some broader things, and then I'm going to get into more specifics. So broadly, RAC is committed to engaging new communities of artists and expanding the range of artistic and cultural expression represented in the city's public art collection. RAC is also committed to reflecting the cultural richness of the city by promoting opportunities for emerging and historically underrepresented artists. Specifically, artists and artist teams representing communities of color are encouraged to apply. Artists and artist teams based in Oregon and Washington are eligible. If you are part of an artist team, one of the people in that team needs to meet the residency criteria. So if you're an artist team of 4, one of you has to live in Oregon or Washington. As we've said multiple times, but I'm going to say it again, applicants with an interest and or experience in community engagement processes, including social practice, will be prioritized. I think you've heard us say it enough times now that is a core value for this project. Specifically, artists who have experience working with youth and residents of historically underrepresented communities, including communities of color, as well as immigrant and refugee communities. We will also be prioritizing folks who have that experience. And one last thing that I wanted to highlight is that the selected artists must be able to create, complete, and deliver their digital artwork design by early February of 2023. So to tell you a little bit about the selection process, everything is entirely virtual at the moment. So we do everything via Zoom. And the panel for this, for Midland Library, so for this project, includes folks from the Multnomah County Library. We have a couple of local artists, community members, and East County residents, the folks from the library bond project team, as well as the design team. It's a great cohort. There's about 10 people on the panel, and they come with a rich and diverse experience and set of backgrounds, and they all have a different approach to art. The panel will review all of the submissions and select about 3 to 5 finalists to invite for interview. We're hoping to have somebody selected by the end of September, beginning of October. We are on a tight timeline for this project due to the construction schedule. So we are fast tracking our artist selection process. And you can see here that we have about 4 criteria that we're using to select artists based on. So we're taking into consideration the quality of past work, your ability and interest in creating a site-specific artwork, how your past experience fits into some of the artwork goals we discussed, specifically around community engagement, and then your interest and or ability to create connection to Midland Library and the Mill Park neighborhood. Sophie, is there anything else around any of that that I'm missing or we should tell folks?
Not that I can think of.
Okay. So how to apply, the big question. You can go to rack.org/apply, and that will take you to the RAC Opportunity Portal. For those who have used the portal before, you just log in as you normally would. For folks who are new, you'll need to create an account. If you are applying as part of a team, please assign one person to apply on your behalf. So we don't need all of you to apply. If you're a team of 4, just pick one person and they will submit all the materials on behalf of all 4 of you. This is just a little preview of what that Opportunity Portal homepage looks like. Some of you are probably familiar with this. And then we're going to just go over briefly the application materials that you'll need to submit. So the first thing that we will need is an artist bio and or resume. You can upload that as a PDF, no more than 2 pages. So again, if you're applying as a team, you'll have to fit all of that information on 2 pages. And then a statement of interest, which is up to 3,000 words. And there are prompts within the Opportunity Portal. There are some prompts that we would like you to respond to. Those are things that we as a team have discussed specifically. So we will be looking at the responses very closely and how well you are responding to those prompts. One other thing is, if you would prefer to upload your statement of interest as a video or an audio file, you can do that. There is that capability within the portal. And then finally, there's room to upload up to 8 images of past work. And if you can give us a description, that's really helpful. So understanding how much the budget was, where it's located, again, if you're in a team, whose work is whose, all of that information is really helpful. And then I've got a couple tips here for you just to take into account. One, if you don't have a professional website, you can direct us to social media if you feel that that represents your work well. And tip number 2 is that the statement of interest and your images really breathe life into your application. So be authentic and just tell us, who you are. Be vulnerable with us. We want to meet you.
Before you move on,
Yes.
quick clarification question. Is it 3,000 words or 3,000 characters?
I believe it.
I know that's important, especially when I'm writing stuff out myself.
I'm pretty sure that it's 3,000 words. But once we're done with the slideshow and I close it down, I can double check that. But yes, I'm pretty sure it's 3,000 words.
And for those of you who are asking questions about engagement, we will answer those once we are in the Q&A question section.
Okay, I'm going as fast as I can. Trying to also be careful about our Asl interpreters. Okay, so submissions are due next Wednesday. We have a week left. They're due Wednesday at 5 p.m. Again, submit everything through the RAC Opportunity Portal, rac.org/apply. And there are a few extra tips on the bottom of this slide here. So ask us questions. I know Mario is dying to get to the Q&A. And so ask us questions. We're here to support you. If you have questions after this session, you can reach out to us. I know it's hard. I've worked with artists my entire career. And so I know how things happen, but if you can manage to apply with a little extra time before the deadline, we all appreciate it. Just in case something comes up in the portal or you have an issue uploading something, we can be around to help you. If you're submitting at 4:45 on Wednesday, I might not be around to do that. So we want to help you get your materials in there. And if there's any issue, access issue, or any other barrier to using the application portal, please let us know. We have all sorts of types of resources and assistance that we can provide. There's more details on those access and assistance resources in the RFQ. Here's a list of some important dates and the timeline that we're working to. So as I mentioned, applications due next week. Early to mid-September, we will be reviewing all of the applications and going through the artist selection process, including interviews. They will probably take place towards the end of the month. And we hope to have an artist selected, like I said, by end of September, beginning of October at the latest. All community engagement and participatory design will happen between when the artist is selected in late September and then January 2023, just to be clear. And then design review and digitization of artwork will take place in January 2023. And the design will be submitted to the construction team early February 2023. Between March and October of 2023, there may still be some need for you to be involved. There may still be some engagement that needs to happen around the work. And we would also want you to be involved in reviewing, making sure that the materials as they're being printed are correct, that it represents you well, and that you can come and be on site during installation or be part of that process too. Okay, Mario, we're here. So if you have questions, let's talk. We want to hear from you. We'll make some time now. We have technically 8 minutes, but if Sophia, Mario, and the interpreters can stay, we could maybe go a little bit longer. But if you have questions that we don't get to today, my email is there. Please feel free to reach out. And there's also some information there at the bottom about how to access interpretation services if you need them. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen unless we need to go back to the slides for any reason, but I want everyone to be able to see us as we do the Q&A. Is that okay?
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Okay.
First, the first two logistic questions that we had and I think this goes to reflect that we're asking for, this is an RFQ.
Yes.
And so what if an artist is hesitant to submit a resume because it may not be as vast as they are thinking it should be?
I want to answer that one.
Okay, yeah, you go ahead. Go ahead. You answer that one.
We would love to see and support artists who may not have had as many opportunities to be represented before. So please apply. Yes, just please apply.
Can I add? This is actually a really great opportunity for emerging artists and those who are also looking to expand their portfolio and their practice. Not to say just, but we're just looking for a design. And so the fabrication and installation of this artwork is not the artist's responsibility. So there's a lot of support in this project, from Sophia and the design team and community engagement and other aspects of the work they're doing, to the fabrication and installation being on the construction team's plate. So it's really a great project for folks who are looking to expand. And I really would encourage you to apply, like Sophia said, and don't let that limit you.
Okay. There was a question on the cladding is to be decided for the surface of the exterior walls. Will those images be printed on vinyl too, or the HPL?
HPL. So the exterior cladding is going to be a different material. That is going to be a fiber cement panel that has a routed texture into it. So it's actually going to be a physically tactile texture in a cement-like material.
And that's part of this design, correct?
It would not be part of the canopy design. So that's a good
clarification. No, it's a good clarification.
Yeah.
Okay. So the cladding is not part of the canopy design. All right. And for those people who feel they are not necessarily a qualified artist at the moment, are there other opportunities to be engaged, for example, like giving feedback?
Yeah, I mean, I would encourage you to stay involved in the process and potentially show up to some of the community engagement sessions that will be taking place in the next few months.
Okay. And also, as we had pointed out, there are going to be 2 other opportunities, more call for artists or qualifications that are going to be opening up opening up later as well. So keep checking back as well. So now for rounding back to community engagement and what that means and what that looks like. We had a question if social media could be considered or is an acceptable tool for community engagement. And I have some thoughts, but I first wanted to hear from both of you.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of tools and different ways people communicate with each other. And if you have a really fantastic way, an idea about how you would use social media to reach a larger audience, hey, go for it. So I think to more broadly just answer what we're looking for from community engagement, two things I would mention are the idea of ownership. Community members wanting to have a sense of ownership over the library space. And so the act of co-creation is a really great way to build ownership over a space. And the second aspect is about lived experience and knowledge. So recognizing that as designers, we don't have the same lived experience as all the communities or people that will be experiencing our design. It's really important that we're actually getting thoughts and insights from the people that are going to be experiencing the work in order to create and develop and finalize the work itself. And so if your engagement is able to bring in that knowledge and create a sense of ownership, then I would say you're doing a pretty good job. But I'll let Sophie weigh in if there's anything else to add.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think there are lots of ways to make people feel included and involved. I would maybe be hesitant to encourage all of the community engagement to happen virtually or by social media, just because that isn't fully accessible to everybody, especially various communities that use libraries. So I could see it being part of a strategy, but I don't see it being the whole thing.
Yeah,
right?
that is a good point. You know, one of the things the library deals with a lot is issues of digital literacy.
Mm-hmm.
Not everyone can use technology. Not everyone is on social media. So in general, our engagement has tried to kind of bridge strategies that are able to reach different populations in different ways.
Mara, you said you had some thoughts. What do you want to add?
Yeah, no, I think you touched upon it, that social media can be a part of social engagement with communities. So can be hosting an event potentially where ideas and brainstorming can happen, even as fun as it was kind of questioned, as well as a paint by numbers activity as well. Those are all activities that you are getting people involved who will be actually viewing and living with this work of art as well. So I think those are all great ideas. I think you hit it on the nose in terms of accessibility and who has the ability to participate. I think those are all good questions to always ask. We are not saying that social media is not the way to go. It is. I think it's a good way to start, but also making sure that you're thinking about, okay, who is able to participate in that sort of form of engagement? Who's able then to come to maybe a park nearby and engage live? Who's able to potentially leave work, or can they, depending on the time of the day? I think those are all good questions to ask. And community engagement can be a nebulous term, but I think it's also a term to really be able, an exciting term to be able to explore with the community that you are creating work for, as what was already mentioned as well. Because as designers or artists, one, either if we don't live in the communities that this art is going to be displayed for, and or we are also coming with different experiences. So this is a chance actually for knowledge sharing to happen, where the communities that you are creating for are actually going to be able to share their experiences with you that can better inform the decisions that you make.
Right. And I just want to add, because I see that there is a question about that I said something about having community members submit designs, and so does that mean that the community members get a say in our designs? I'm sorry if that was confusing. The community members will not be submitting designs to inform your artwork. They will be part of a community engaged process to inform the artwork, and the way in which you engage them is up to the artist and artist team that's selected. And so that could look like them submitting ideas for actual designs, and then however an artist chooses to interpret that, whether that's literally or taking that as inspiration. Again, I don't want to dictate that. This is all part of the process that we will be working through over those months with the selected artists. I just wanted to clarify that. And there's also a question, sorry, Mario, go ahead.
I was going to get to the question where it was asked if this design will be blown up or artwork created on site, and thankful for our rack star Keith, who is also online, was able to answer that. But I think it's important that we reiterate that this design will be a digital design, and it will be enlarged of whatever you create.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and then there is another question about community engagement and where any in-person events may happen. So the Midland Library itself has been, they have very generously offered to host the community engagement sessions. There's also outdoor space at the back of the library. There is a small city park there. So there are a couple of options in and around that neighborhood for where community engagement in-person events could take place.
I think we have touched upon all of the questions. And just one question, and I think it's a logistical question too, but it might be also already in the information packet. Is there a template that artists and designers would be able to eventually follow?
I need a little bit more for that. A template of what? What are we, do you know?
For the space to be covered by the canopy. So it would include dimensions, potentially, you know, where the corners would be and how it might be folded a little bit.
Yes, there are design documents, there are renderings. We have all of that, yeah.
And that, of course, will be shared once the artist or artist group is selected, correct?
Right, because again, important to reiterate that we are holding a request for qualifications. We are not asking people to submit proposals at this point. Again, if you caught the IG Live that Mario and I did last week, the difference between an RFQ and an RFP is that you should be being paid for an RFP. If anybody is asking you to submit a proposal, there should be an honorarium or a stipend involved in that. We're not in that process. We're in a process where we want to see what your experience and past work is. So that's why we're going for a request for qualifications. And once we get more into the process, once we have finalists and we move into an interview phase, that is when you would be being asked some of those more in-depth questions about process, and then your design phase is really where the proposal will happen, because you can't do a proposal right now without being part of the community engagement sessions. Sophia, is there anything that I missed with that? Anything else, Mario?
No, that looks like we were able to answer them.
Oh, you know, there was one question that came up last week that I needed to find some information on in order to answer it. So I'm going to answer it here. The question during the IG Live was, are library staff eligible to apply? And so my answer to that is yes, as long as there is no conflict of interest. So, you know, a library member of staff who was on the selection panel, or has a spouse or a loved one who was on the selection panel, that would be a conflict of interest. You wouldn't be eligible to apply. Folks who are working at Midland Library staff working at Midland, that also feels like a little bit of a conflict of interest. But if you are really eager to be part of the process, I would encourage you to apply as part of a team. and we'll then, review the application, and you'll go through the selection process like everybody else.
Okay. One more thing, I think there was a request and might help everybody who's still in attendance, is if you could just go over the timeline once more.
Oh, yeah, sure. Would it be helpful for me to share that slide again?
I think so.
Okay, 1 second. Okay, let's see. Okay, so here's the timeline. So just to go over it one more time, applications are due next Wednesday, August 31st at 5 p.m. PST. Early to mid-September, we will meet as a panel to review all of the applications and start moving through the artist selection process. We will probably conduct interviews with the finalists towards the end of September. And then we hope to make a selection at the end of September, beginning of October at the latest. From that moment through to January 2023, that will be the design phase. So that will be when we're conducting community engagement sessions, when you're meeting with the community to discuss potential design ideas, and that's when your proposal will happen as well. So then in January of 2023, there will be a design review with the panel and with the community. We'll move through the process of digitizing the artwork. If you need assistance with that, again, we can help. And then the digital design, the final design, will be submitted to the construction team in early February 2023. From March to October of 23, there may be some need for you to be involved with, as we move through with moving things to the fabricator, as they get printed, kind of quality check types of things. And then we would obviously encourage you to come and be part of the installation process too when that's getting done, and come see that taking place.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Mario, for facilitating for us today. And Sophia, thank you for joining us as the representative from the design team. And Jordan and Dana, thank you so much for doing ASL interpretation for us today. It was so good to see you. And for those of you who were with us at the beginning, you got to hear Dana and I catch up after a long time. So you're welcome. You got a little insight into our personal lives.
Also, this should be not live, I shouldn't say live, but this is going on our YouTube channel probably by the end of this week, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there's one last question in the chat. Where can I find updates? I would just go to the RAC website, and you can, in the current RAC opportunities section of the website, there is lots more information about this call. There is all the details on the RFQ. There is a link to a supplemental materials packet. As Mario said, the recording from today will also be shared. And you can also, I think, go to our Instagram to see the session that we did last week as well, right? At Regional Arts. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. I'm going to stop recording, but thank you
everybody for joining.
Thank you.